you're not willing to listen,
Why do you think I have civil rights? Why do you think they passed this law? Why does it say any further personal information is inappropriate? Why do you think Why do you think Parliament sometimes say that? Why?
How though?
I've been treated very, very bad. I've been held for hours and cross-examined.
You can't make a declarative statement like that without describing
I'm so happy you're willing to listen.
Yeah.
Okay, if you're willing to listen, I'll tell you. I've been held for like 2 hours and interrogated about my relationship with my ex-wife and my relationship with my mother.
Okay.
And that's a violation of my civil rights.
Okay.
Under Canadian law.
You're going to have to talk to me.
Under Canadian law. This is the law in Canada. The last time I took a complaint to CBSA, they told me specifically, I do have the right to film you. I do have the right to film all of the stuff, unlike other countries.
But you can't
and that
film
is partly
them.
so that.
You can't film them.
Okay, that's not what we're debating though. I'm not interested in filming random people.
I never told you not to film me. I would prefer you not to, but you can.
Okay, so this is something. He's now saying he didn't tell me not to film him, and he's telling me that.
I thought you knew the law.
And he's also telling me that he never said he knows. Okay, so let's get a selfie together.
Go ahead.
Okay, Dylan. All right, thank you for selfie. Because when I talked to higher levels of the organization, they told me very clearly that one of the very few civil rights I have is to record these interactions.
Okay.
Because there's no other oversight over CBSA.
Okay, but listen.
So thanks for your time, Dylan.
You went over there.
Right.
Okay. What questions were asked? Don't start.
I was asked questions about my personal life.
Let me finish.
Okay.
Let me finish.
Sorry, I thought that was the end of your question.
Don't
So you
start. Like you don't start a conversation with an officer that hasn't dealt with you. Let's just go over.
Right.
You don't start a conversation with an officer that hasn't dealt with you with legislation about what you can get asked or not, right?
With all due respect,
you had an
maybe
issue.
you don't.
Let me finish.
Right.
You had an issue with an officer there. Is that correct?
No, I wouldn't say so.
Okay.
I didn't. Sorry, at no point did I say to you I had an issue with an officer.
Okay.
That wasn't the way I put it.
Okay. So what's the problem now?
Well, the problem is that in Canada, under the law, after you identify yourself as a Canadian citizen, if you have something like a passport or equivalent, no further questioning is appropriate. You're a supervisor, and you're unaware of what the law is.
I am very aware of what the law is. I know what I can ask you.
I'm holding it.
You're not listening.
I'm holding it in my hands right now.
Are you going to listen? Can I finish my thought?
I'm happy to listen.
Okay, you're so enraged right now. Let's just stop.
Okay, there's a camera. Do I look enraged?
Okay. As a Canadian citizen, by law, you're allowed to enter in Canada. By right, actually. Right?
Yes, right.
Is that true?
Correct.
Correct. But when they ask you questions about your travel to different areas of the world, they may be asking you questions to assess risk about the goods you have in your possession today.
So, did you get a university degree before taking this degree?
Oh, I'm not answering those kind of questions.
Well, why not? I get asked those kinds of questions all the time at the board.
Do you want to discuss?
So look, I studied political science.
Okay.
Right? I understand the way the law works.
Okay.
There's a constitution, there's a law, and then there's a guideline, which is saying to you, everything you've just said to me is contrary to both the law and the guideline.
Okay.
Now, with all your sympathy, it's quite likely the staff here, maybe they only heard the guideline at the time when they first got their training, like when they first were prepared to do the job, and they haven't heard it for years. There may be some reason. What's remarkable to me is...
You still haven't let me finish, right?
Okay, so sorry, do you want to say?
They can ask you questions. Whether you're...
so whether or not I have the right to refuse to answer?
Yes, you do, right? Like foreign nationals don't have that right, right?
That's your interpretation of my civil rights. But what the actual law says is, because I've got it right here for you, it is not appropriate for border services to elicit further personal information from a Canadian citizen.
What's personal information? What were you asked?
I'm asked all kinds of things at the border.
What's personal?
Okay, what was I studying? Was that the duration of the course? Sure, personal information. I've also been asked about my girlfriend and my relation with my mom. I'm asked all kinds of things at the board.
What were you asked here?
I just gave you several
What were you asked here?
I was asked about what I was studying and how many months the course was and so on.
Okay.
And I said, I'm sorry, with all due respect, under ENF4.
Okay.
ENF4 is what governs CBSA.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, CBSA answers to Parliament, period.
How many acts?
There's no intermediary.
How many acts does the CBSA enforce? That's one act, right?
No, it's not. It's not an act. I can tell you what the document is. I can answer that question.
We're going to done.
This
CBSA.
This is explaining to you the difference between how you treat foreign nationals and Canadian citizens.
The second part that you have not accepted is that we also handle the Customs Act. And that
I have read all that too.
It's in relation to your goods.
Right, I've read all that too.
So when the officers ask you questions, they're mitigating risk regarding your goods. And if you're unwilling to answer those questions, that's fine. You're not obligated to answer any questions by an officer because you're a Canadian citizen.
So one funny clarification I want to add is you'll notice that he keeps insinuating that he has the right to ask me the questions, but I have the right to remain silent. That's what a lot of people think based on watching American television. But that's not actually the law in Canada. What the law in Canada says is that it is inappropriate for him to ask me the question. That's fundamentally different from saying, well, they can ask all the questions they want and I have the right, I can sit there and say, no, I choose from that. That's not what the law says. So in terms of what your civil rights are and how to know when they're being violated, this is a distinction with a difference. I think you're in for a shock if you take the time to see what ENF says about actual questions.
I'm done having a conversation with you, okay? Like, we're not going to go. You're not willing to listen, right?
Why do you think I have civil rights? Why do you think they passed this law? Why does it say any further personal information is inappropriate? Why do you think that? Why do you think Parliament is going to say that? Okay. Why?
Let's agree to disagree. Okay. You have your way of dealing with it, and I'm telling you what our thought process is.
So let me ask you, when you read this question, when you read this statement, it is not appropriate to elicit further personal information.
I'm not arguing this statement.
Right.
I'm not.
So therefore, if I am asked about my relationship with my mother, sure, that's ENF 4. If I'm asked further information about my relationship with my mother or my girlfriend or anything along these lines. Sorry. More or less the same wording appears again and again, page after page in ENF 4. It recurs again and again to remind you.
Okay.
No, it's not.
You're not. Okay. Here, listen. Can I go this? You're gonna
sure.
Let me,
I'm completely happy to listen.
Okay.
I'm completely happy to listen.
There's two things, right? So Immigration Refugee Protection Act. You're a Canadian citizen.
Right.
Once I formulate it in my mind that you're a Canadian citizen,
right,
I will not question you regarding anything regarding your entry into Canada as a lawful citizen. Right?
Right.
When we look at your goods, like that's a different act, right? So we're asking you questions to mitigate risk about what you have in your possession that you're bringing back into Canada.
The last time I went through a situation like this, they tried to use the same excuse. The rationale being that they can ask any questions that are related to the contents of your baggage, right? But then they justify any questions whatsoever, including questions about your mom, your ex-wife, what you do. Like, they can ask questions your whole life because supposedly it's all related to your baggage. Now, it would be a very different situation if that were true legally, right? If that were the law, well, that might be an interesting game we could play. We could all play by those rules. But that is not what the law says.
Just put that down.
So my question is, why would I answer questions about my relationship with my mother, my relationship with my girlfriend?
I don't know what questions you were asked.
I know you don't.
Tell me what questions you were asked.
I did. I've told you repeatedly. I've told you repeatedly. So what did I say? You say I don't listen.
I wasn't there.
Okay, so you say that I don't listen, but this is an example of you not listening. You last at least 3 times. Okay?
You're glossing over the questions. What questions did my officer ask you over
So does this ring a bell? I told you I was asked about what I studied, how long the course lasted, etc. I was asked questions.
So you don't think she was trying to mitigate risk with your goods, possibly?
No, I think that this law was written with this wording for a reason. I think the fact that I don't have to answer any further questions as soon as I've proven that I'm a Canadian citizen, I think that really means something.
Okay.
I think you guys have really forgotten that Parliament passed laws. That the way you treat Canadian citizens is supposed to be fundamentally different from. I've been all over the world.
Okay.
Nowhere on earth am I treated worse than by Canada's own.
But how though?
I've been treated very, very bad. I've been held for hours and cross-examined.
You can't make a declarative statement like that without describing it.
I'm so happy you're willing to listen.
Yeah.
Okay, if you're willing to listen, I'll tell you. I've been held for like 2 hours and interrogated about my relationship with my ex-wife and my relationship with my mother. And that's a violation of my civil rights. I've had my completely lawful, boring possessions taken away from me, destroyed. I've had wrapped presents opened, all of which is again contrary to ENF, for no reason other than to intimidate or harass me. That has never happened to me as a foreigner. It's never happened in Cambodia. It's never happened in communist China. It's never happened in communist Laos. I've traveled all over the world and working outside of Canada for years. Canada treats me worse. So I looked into what are my civil rights, and I'm shocked to find out I actually have some really important civil rights in Canada. But people who work at border services don't seem to declare that. So I took the time to say, look, I'm happy to answer the question conversationally. Where are you coming from? How was your trip? Just on the level of conversation. But look, if you're going to ask me personal questions,
can we have that conversation? So I can assess your risk. Because okay, listen. Fair enough. Let's get through this, okay?
Yeah.
Do you want to be here all day with me? Probably not.
Sure. No, absolutely.
I got busy.
No, absolutely.
I'm busy.
You know what? I would love it for you to violate my civil rights more. I would love it because I've been through this for so many. I've been so persecuted by CBSA my whole fucking life. No, you're not. But I'm telling you, in the past, I've been through this.
Okay, but listen.
But what are my civil rights? My civil rights are to ask no personal questions. Answer no further questions.
Is it Mr. Mazard?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, I don't want to disrespect you, okay? But listen, like I have work to do.
Right.
And if I don't need to talk to you, I don't leave it. And I don't think you want to talk to me. I'm sure you have people you want to go visit, right?
What's the moral of the story here?
Let me finish here, right? They had the officer asked you questions to mitigate risk, right? They weren't able to let me finish. Sure. Stop, right? I know you have enforcement law in your hand and you're gonna tout it, right? That's fine. You can do that. But
Well, apparently I can't.
Let me
That's what
finish.
happens.
Like you were being referred, and they were going to talk to you, mitigate the risk, and then cut you loose if
Right.
there was no concerns. But you got into a conversation with her about this law, right?
Right. Because I don't want to question my personal life.
That's fine.
Because I don't want to answer
That's
questions.
fine. But they still haven't gotten to the end, right? They haven't been able to ask you questions to mitigate the risk.
Nowhere in the NF4 did I see
Let
you
me
go into
finish.
this
Let me-
procedure. What I'm afraid
Tell
of
me, you're not
is that
answering.
you throw away my civil rights. That's what I'm afraid of.
How are your civil rights being thrown away?
But this document describes civil rights. And I've asked you, where in the EDF documents, it may not be EDF4, where does it describe the procedure you're talking about? This kind of questioning.
So we're done, okay?
Yeah. So I don't think you know. I don't think you've ever looked at
Okay,
the
well,
guidelines.
that's fine. You can think what you like, okay?
Do you think, sincerely, there's anywhere in ENF that describes the procedure you're describing now? Because I've read the document, and I don't see anything like that as being lawful.
You're not accepting the
I see that as unlawful.
Okay.
As far as I know, under Canadian law, what you're I completely
Okay,
agree.
well,
It's-
I'm telling you
look,
right now,
I
like,
know it's business as
I
usual.
can't mitigate the risk
I know.
with you right now, and
I
you're
know.
going to go into secondary
I
and you're going to go through your bag.
I know that's business as
verify
usual.
your declaration.
I know
Is
that's
that fair?
business as usual in Canada.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, I mean, so you said I know ENF. You said that you know ENF better than I do. So can you tell me, is there a section of ENF that
I
describes
never
this
said
procedure?
I know better than you do.
He keeps suggesting that there's some other act that defines the procedure he's following. What ENF is a summary of all of the acts and laws so that they know what to do in practice. That's normally called a guideline in Canada. Well, look, see, again, I can answer these questions, but
Yeah.
do I have to in terms of my civil rights? I mean, I can break down what I'm doing in Taiwan.
You can just tell
But-
me, were you there for school for many months or what? Or were you working there, right?
You see, look, this is the point. Why do I have civil rights?
Yeah.
Look, if you say to someone you have the right to remain silent, you just said I don't have to answer these questions.
Okay.
So do I have to answer them or not? Because I say I've had the experience of being held for hours
But if you don't,
between like midnight and 2 a.m.
Do you accept the fact
All
that
right?
if you, okay, well,
No,
you,
and
no, let
I
me
have
finish.
never seen in ENF any description of the procedure you're
finish.
describing.
Let me finish.
I don't see anything like that described. So the ironic denouement to that story, I'm still here in the airport in front of these fabulous quasi-religious statues. The funny irony to the story is I'm sent to so-called secondary processing. And I talked to like 3 people there, and they're like the nicest guys I've ever dealt with in Canadian Border Services. We had this really great conversation, which I didn't record, as you can see. But like, the guy's just like, oh yeah, how long have you been learning Chinese? One of the guys, he himself had tried learning Chinese and gave up. And I was like, well, learning Chinese can take you 10 years. He was like, yep, that's the truth. He asked me about my trip to Greece. They didn't even search my bags. They didn't search my bags. They didn't cross-examine me. They didn't ask any inappropriate questions about my relationship with my mother or my ex-wife or my daughter. It was perfect. It was the epitome of professionalism, and it was a really friendly, positive experience. So, that's, in some ways, I wish I'd recorded it, but of course, if I had the camera that was recording it, probably they would have been freaked out, and it wouldn't have been quite as nice an experience. Probably they still would have been pretty professional, though. So there you go. Takes all sorts, man. But civil rights exist for a reason. Rule of law exists for a reason. If you think it doesn't, why do you think we have that law in the first place?
Dun, 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 dun.